Hi, this is Debbie, and today I'm taking a look at a new stamp with matching die from Altenew's December release, along with their new mini blossom die cutting machine. I'm guessing it comes as no surprise to you that I picked out a floral set from the new release to use today. I do love Altenew's florals, and when picking the flower I wanted to use, I was thinking about the way I wanted to colour it, and that often depends on the design. For no-line watercolouring, I like an open design with large petals that I can get a nice gradient of colour to define one petal from another. For a design such as this peony spray with lots of details in the petals, I find that this type of image is better stamped with an outline. Now the question is whether to stamp it in black ink, for example, or heat emboss. For stamping florals, I do like white heat emboss line, as I find the lighter colour of the outline adds a soft ethereal look to the image, and so that's what I decided to do with the peony spray set. I'm going to be using watercolours today, and here I have a piece of cold pressed watercolour card and a piece of hot pressed watercolour card so you can see the difference. I love to watercolour on cold pressed watercolour card as the textured surface holds water and paint really well and creates nice effects with granulating paints where the pigments of the paint settle in the valleys of the card. However, when stamping and wanting to get a nice clean impression, then the smooth texture of hot pressed watercolour card is the one to go for. I've placed a piece of roughly A2 size hot press watercolour card in a mini MISTI and then popping the bloom from the peony spray set on top and closing the drawer of the MISTI to transfer it ready for stamping. I'm now treating the card with EK Success powder tool. The powder tool will help prevent embossing powder randomly sticking to the card in places I don't want it to. Embossing powder sticks to anything such as a fingerprint, and I only want it to stick to the Altenew embossing ink that I'm stamping the flower in. The embossing ink leaves a sticky impression of the image that embossing powder can adhere to, and I'm sprinkling a good layer of Altenew white embossing powder over the top before tapping off any excess, and then heat setting the powder with a preheated heat tool. I'm trying a couple of new brushes today. These are from Princeton Heritage range and are a high quality synthetic sable which tapers to a fine point. I have the size 3 and 1, and in comparison to my usual Winsor & Newton Series 7 brushes, they have a very reasonable price point. The embossed lines of the image create wells to contain the watercolour, and so when applying the first layer of paint you don't have to be very precise. All the paints I'm using today are from Daniel Smith, and I'm laying down a nice light quinacridone coral layer, moving it around the whole area of the bloom, and the paint will settle in the individual wells of the petals, and the way the paint collects and pools in each well will give some variety to the petals from the outset. I've added HANSA yellow light to the flower centre, and then moving on to add deeper layers of colour to the petals where shadows would naturally fall, such as where there are two petals overlapping. As I continue to paint the petals, I like to add slight variations in colour by mixing the quinacridone coral with HANSA yellow light to give more peachy tones in places. I feel adding the different tones creates more life and interest, and when I move on to painting the leaves, I'll be using some ultramarine blue as well as HANSA yellow light to the base of undersea green to create the same effect. I'll play some music while I continue painting, and then I'll be back soon. now for the last time, I'm aligning the matching die and then holding it in place with washi tape ready for die cutting. And the exciting news is that Altenew are producing their own mini blossom die cutting machine, which is compact and portable, works with Altenew and other wafer thin dies, and can be used to quickly and easily die cut, while the elegant design is great to look at, and the stable base with suction feet keep it firmly in place on your desk. The machine is sized at 6 inches by 4.5 inches, and then there's a handle on top of that, and the cutting plates are 3 inches by 6.25 inches. The mini blossom die cutting machine and the 2 plates come nicely packaged in a beautiful box too. I trimmed the card around the peony spray flower and popped it on top of the thicker base plate, added the top plate, and then ran the sandwich through the die cutting machine. I'm not sure about you, but I always run the die through my die cutting machine and then back through again, so that it comes out the same side as it went in. I find this easier to add the sandwich in with my left hand and turn the handle with my right, and then the extra run back through the machine is a bonus to ensure a clean cut. I wanted a few complementary sprigs of flowers and leaves to add behind my peony spray die cut, and so I stamped a few of the images from the beautiful day set in evening grey ink, and then again ran them through the mini blossom die cutting machine. I wanted a simple background so the flowers would be the focal point of the card, and so I trimmed a panel of pale grey card to 4 inches by 5.25 inches. I added foam adhesive to the back of the flowers, and then arranged them on the lower side of the grey panel. I added a twine bow and kept it in place with a glue dot, and then for the sentiment I stamped one of the phrases from the Peony spray set in embossing ink on slate card, sprinkled with white embossing powder, heat set and trimmed it to a skinny banner before mounting over the flowers with more foam adhesive. When I'm adding a sentiment, I often use an old T-square ruler to ensure the sentiment goes on straight. I then added foam adhesive to the back of the grey panel and added it to an ivory card base. I always choose ivory rather than white because the watercolour card has a creamy colour rather than a bright white, and ivory tones better. I added a few sequins to embellish and kept them in place with range multimedia matte. And that completes this watercoloured floral bouquet card using the new Peony spray stamp and the die and new mini blossom die cutting machine to die cut. I'll leave links in the YouTube description below to the products that I've used today, as well as a link to the coordinating blog post over at linedoodledesign.com. I want to thank you for joining me today, and if you've enjoyed this tutorial, I'd be delighted if you subscribe to this channel. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.